Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I'm back with the Cersei Lannister prediction video. In this video, I'm talking about everything that I think will happen to Cersei Lannister episode by episode in Game of Thrones Season 7. And the last time we left off with Cersei Lannister, we saw her take over the Iron Throne with not much thought. She ended up beaten and broken down, all of her children have been taken away from her. So in retaliation, she killed all of her rivals and then climbed the steps to the throne. In the last scene, we get a look between her and Jaime, and it really hints at the relationship slowly falling apart. Because as characters, they're heading in two different directions, with two different agendas. So now that she's the Queen of Westeros, she's in a really difficult position. She has hardly any allies, she's only relying on her army. And to be fair, she does have a really big army, but another looming threat is across Essos. And that is that the Lannister house is in immense debt with the Iron Bank. They are in so much debt that they can't even afford to pay 1/10 of the debt to the Iron Bank. And we already know in past seasons that the Iron Bank is losing its support of the Lannister house. They funded Stannis Baratheon to help him remove Tommen Baratheon as King of Westeros. And this leaves Cersei in a bind. She had the opportunity to get the gold fronted by the Tyrells in Season 5. But she refused because she'd rather owe the Iron Bank money than be in the pockets of the Tyrells, because she considered them her enemy. But now she made sure that all the Tyrells are gone, and she still owes incredible amounts of debt, while she's also fighting a war. So I think this season it starts off with Cersei not in a very good place, and she's driven mainly by anger over strategy. And then in episode 1, we're going to start off with a scene between Jaime and Cersei. And it's going to really build the foundation for the season coming up. We're going to see them in the Red Keep, building out the map room to get ready for this war. The reason Cersei's building it in the Red Keep is that she can't really leave the Red Keep because the citizens of King's Landing hate her so much. She cannot go out in public whatsoever. And her and Jaime are going to talk about how Daenerys' army is approaching and how they're going to prepare for that. They also discuss what was Cersei's reasoning for taking the Iron Throne. And she's going to tell them that she was so angry and now they finally have the power to pay back their debts. She tells Jaime that she doesn't want to hurt anymore, and she wants to make sure that the people who wronged her are brought to justice. But then in the next scene, Cersei gets a letter from the Iron Bank, and this is written by Tycho Nestoris. And this letter tells her that she must make a certain payment by a specified date, or they will support Daenerys' army. Tycho Nestoris assures her that they will stop at nothing to make sure she is off the Iron Throne if she does not begin to pay off her debts. And overall, the letter, it's going to really hint that if Cersei does not make the payment that they want, she will be terminated. And based on this information, she's surprisingly going to take it seriously. Because she is going to think about that interaction she had with her father when he tells her that nobody messes with the Iron Bank.
That's what the Iron Bank is. A temple. We all live in its shadow, and almost none of us know it. You can't run from them, you can't cheat them, you can't sway them with excuses. If you owe them money and you don't want to crumble yourself, you pay it back. Vesting the Tyrells in the crown will help a great deal in this respect.
But she is in a difficult position where she doesn't even have close to the amount of money to pay them back by the specified date, and they're also fighting a war against Daenerys. They need all the assets they can get in order to try and win this war. She debates to write back for an extension, but she ends up stopping herself. And she realizes that she really has to make this payment to be able to still sit on the Iron Throne and to fight this war against her enemies. But then we get an introduction to her first ally. Euron Greyjoy is going to arrive with some Ironborn and pledge his allegiance to Cersei. Obviously, he's going to come in confident and proud, and he's going to offer her all of his men and his ships. In turn, he wants a strong alliance, and he proposes marriage. And he tells her that she needs a king by her side. But then we see that Jaime and Cersei noticeably get angry. Jaime gets a little jealous and asks Euron, out of all the other Greyjoys, why is he here? Euron tells him that the other Greyjoys left when he won the support of the people. But then Jaime pushes him and says that he needs them. Because his family fled to Daenerys, he has to support the Lannisters or he's going to be in the middle of a war. And he's never truly going to have claim to the Iron Islands. And then Cersei speaks up and gives Euron a choice. Euron can either fight with them and be rewarded or fade into nothing. Euron eventually accepts their agreement and Cersei tells him to wait for further orders. But then we get another scene of Cersei and Jaime again by the map room, and they're planning out their strategy. Jaime makes some strategic suggestions, but Cersei dismisses him and says that they need to take over Highgarden. She tells them that they need their resources to pay for the war effort and also to pay off the Iron Bank. She also tells him that she does not want Daenerys to have these resources. and that she wouldn't expect them to attack one of her primary allies. She also wants revenge because she does hear whispers that Lady Olenna joined forces with Daenerys. So she wants Lady Olenna dead. And then Jaime reassures her and tells her that they will get everything that they have. And he tells her that he's going to send a raven to Randall Tarly because he wants his expertise in battle. Jaime knows that he is going to Highgarden to remove the power there, and he wants Randall Tarly to be able to reward him with the seat of Highgarden if he helps him take the castle over. And she agrees with Jaime, and she tells him that she wants Euron and the Ironborn to sail for Dorne and attack Sunspear to avenge their daughter. And Jaime agrees, so overall they've come to the conclusion that they're going to attack the 2 home bases of Daenerys' primary allies. So then she gives Jaime permission to take Widow's Wail, which is a big step for her because it used to belong to Joffrey and then Tommen. And then Jaime says goodbye and he leaves for Highgarden. But then in episode 2, Cersei gets some crucial information. Jaime ends up arriving at Highgarden and confronts Olenna Tyrell, and she tells Jaime everything about how her and Peter Baelish poisoned Joffrey. So Jaime sent this raven to Cersei, and she finds out that Peter Baelish actually betrayed her. So Cersei immediately writes a raven to the Vale and to Winterfell to try and find where Peter Baelish is slithering about. And this formal letter denounces Littlefinger of all titles, and he loses all lands that he holds. And she also demands that he comes to King's Landing to answer for his crimes. But then in episode 3, we're going to see Euron Greyjoy back in the streets of King's Landing. But this time we're going to see him with a couple prisoners. He's going to have Yara Greyjoy, Ellaria Sand, and Tyene Sand. And Euron is going to bring these prisoners into the throne room to see Cersei. And we're going to see a small interaction. Ellaria Sand is going to mock Cersei by talking about Myrcella. And she's going to be egging Cersei on because she is very frustrated. And Cersei doesn't say anything, she just sends them away to the dungeons in separate cells. And then this is where we start to see Cersei torture, and it's going to be in the worst way possible. She's going to be sending in the Mountain to visit each and every one of them, to do as he pleases, just as he did with Septa Unella. And this episode will end with Cersei walking into Ellaria's cell with a gift. And this gift that she has for Ellaria is actually a gift that she received from Ellaria a couple seasons earlier. She's going to put down the case and pull the pin, and the box will open to reveal a viper, and in the jaws of the viper is the necklace of her daughter Tyene Sand. But then we're not going to see Cersei again until episode 5, and we're going to see Jaime arrive back in King's Landing. And he's going to tell her that they lost the battle at Highgarden against Daenerys. And Cersei angrily is going to ask him that if he lost, then why is he still here? She's going to blame him for leaving the fight and abandoning his men. And she's going to go on and say that the battle is almost lost because they cannot pay the Iron Bank. And they've already lost a significant amount of their men. And she tells Jaime that she refuses to fade into nothing. And then Jaime ends up telling her that they lost Casterly Rock. And he also tells her that he believes that Tyrion Lannister, their brother, planned the attack. And with her anger, Cersei returns to the dungeons. In every scene we see Cersei in the dungeons, it is absolutely brutal because she's going to be torturing these people to the best of her ability. She's going to have the Mountain grab Tyene Sand and drag her into Ellaria's cell. And she's going to be torturing Tyene Sand in front of her mother, to the point where Ellaria is begging her to spare her daughter and kill her instead. But Cersei assures Ellaria that she will live a long time. And she asks Ellaria if she knows what it's like to live past the lives of her children. And Cersei will go on to say that she took away her baby Myrcella, so she ends up killing Tyene Sand very slow for Ellaria to watch. She then visits Yara Greyjoy, and Yara is very beaten and tortured. And Cersei sits down and talks to her a bit, interrogating her to see what her next move could be. And after a long talk, Yara doesn't really end up giving any valuable information, and Cersei feels like she is no longer an asset to her. And because she's on the losing side of the war, she doesn't feel like Yara would be a good bargaining chip. So she gives Euron the pleasure to come in and kill her. But she keeps Ellaria Sand alive so she can continue to torture her for months on end. But then we're going to get a final scene where she's going to go see Septa Unella, and she's going to look awful. And this whole scene is going to point at what Ellaria's fate will be. We will then see Jaime and Bronn have a secret meeting with Tyrion and Davos. And because of this news, Jaime approaches Cersei to discuss with her what just happened. He tells her that he spoke with Tyrion and that he was in King's Landing. And he tells her that Tyrion wants to discuss terms, and that he actually talked about the looming threat of the White Walkers. And Jaime surprisingly ends up backing Tyrion, saying that he is a very skeptical man, and the fact that he believes in White Walkers almost proves its validity. And Cersei's obviously pissed that Jaime did not kill Tyrion then and there, and they end up having a blowout fight. But then Cersei has the idea that she's going to meet with Daenerys and discuss terms in good faith. So she ends up accepting Daenerys' meeting with the letter, and they're going to end up meeting in the Dragon Pit in King's Landing. And the reason why Cersei wants to meet in good faith is because it provides an opportunity to kill her. And she has an idea that won't fully unfold until season 8. But that takes us to the last episode, and that starts in the Dragon Pit, and Cersei's going to be waiting for Daenerys to arrive. But then she finally does, and then we get to see all of these characters together, which includes Cersei, Daenerys, Jon, Tyrion, Jaime, Davos, Missandei, the Hound, Theon, Brienne, Varys, Bronn, Jorah, Euron, Qyburn, the Mountain, Quono, and Podrick. And we're going to see Cersei have an interaction with Tyrion, and she's pretty much going to tell him that he's a disappointment and that he betrayed their family. He killed their mother, he killed their father, he poisoned Joffrey, he sent Marcella to die. She's blaming Tyrion for everything. And she pretty much tells him that it isn't over. And she tells him that Tyrion made sure that she finally had those ashes in her mouth. But she tells Tyrion that the thing with ashes is that they are just the base of a bigger flame yet to come. And this catches Tyrion off guard, but he easily dismisses her, saying that the flames did come, and he's referring to the dragons. He also reminds her that it's over. And he encourages her to step down. But then we will get to the meeting. The Hound will pull out a white from the crate, and the Hound and the Mountain will end up trying to kill it, but they're unsuccessful. So Jon uses Dragonglass to kill it. And by the way, we have seen this before. In Season 6, Episode 5, we see Mira Reed kill a white with Dragonglass. And in my personal opinion, I believe that Dragonglass almost removes the magic between the Night King and the dead. But then we see Daenerys lay down her terms. She tells Cersei to surrender. She tells her that she will allow her to live out her days on Casterly Rock with her brother Jaime. But she tells Cersei that she must bend the knee and give her some of her men to fight for the living when the long night comes. And she tells Cersei that she's going to make her way north, but when she comes back to King's Landing, she expects that Cersei will be gone and would have left to Casterly Rock. And obviously Cersei's going to thank her for her kindness in a very annoyed way. And she promises Daenerys that she will leave for Casterly Rock, and that she will send her forces north for aid. They end up settling this dispute, and Daenerys heads north. But then Cersei has a talk with Jaime. He tells her that it is nice that they get to go back home, and in a way he's happy that the fighting is over. But she ends up telling Jaime that she isn't going anywhere. She tells Jaime that they never had the resources to win, so she's gonna let the dead finish them off. And she tells Jaime that if she ever comes back with her and her dragons, she will make sure to burn the city to the ground so she has nothing to rule. But then Jaime ends up losing it. He tells her that she will die alone and that he is done and he wants to fight for the living and not wait for the dead. And this is where Jaime really takes on the mantle of Lord of Casterly Rock. We see him leave the Red Keep, rally his forces and Bronn, and starts heading north. But on his way up, he's going to stop at Casterly Rock, and that takes place in Season 8. And there is one more scene that ties into Cersei that teases what's going to happen in Game of Thrones Season 8. I believe that we are going to see Tycho Nestoris in Braavos, and he's going to knock on the doors of the House in Black and White and speak with Jaqen H'ghar. And he's only going to say one name, Cersei Lannister. And we're going to look at Jaqen H'ghar, and he's going to say one thing: a girl knows his name. And that is going to cut to tease a new storyline for Game of Thrones Season 8. And it's really going to build on the relationship and the lore of the Bank of Braavos with the House of Black and White. But that is it, everybody, for my predictions of Cersei Lannister. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Leave a like and share. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.